It's time for Baby and Toddler Instructions with host Blythe Lippman. Blythe is a nationally renowned infant and toddler expert who has over 30 years' experience helping moms and dads regain their sanity, teaching them how to survive, and giving them the confidence they need to be the best parents ever. From sleeping to crying to potty training to choosing a preschool and so much more. If you're a parent, Baby and Toddler Instructions is the show you've been looking for. Now here's your host, Blythe Lippman.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're in. I'm so happy you could tune in. Welcome to the show. And I'm really excited about my guest, Sandra Beck, my fellow radio host, mom, and she's so much more. She's going to talk to us in just a bit about being a single mom, and Sandra's the best. Anyway, can't wait. But before that, we did have one recall this week. It was the Design Ideas and Neat Life Rubber Ducky Magnets and Design Ideas Blowfish and Splat Magnets. They can detach from the product, and if swallowed, the magnets can link together inside a child's intestines, clamp onto body tissues, causing obstructions, perforation, sepsis, death. You know, they recalled magnets a number of months ago. They're on my recall page on babyinstructions.com, and that's what happened. These poor little kids, they swallowed the magnets, and they had to have surgery. And many times we give our children those ABC magnets that are made out of plastic to teach them the letters, and you can put them on the refrigerator. It's great entertainment, but whenever your children play with anything, it goes into the mouth. Make sure it's age appropriate, and please pay attention to it. So if you have these Design Ideas magnets, they're really cute. They look like ducks and fish. I have the information on my website already, babyinstructions.com, the phone number and the website, but just take them away. I mean, we have to be so careful with our children. Also, of course, the weather. Only 8 days until the first day of spring on March 20th for everybody else. I am praying you guys don't get snow again. I hear the forecast. It's 60 in Philadelphia. Then it's supposed to be 28 tomorrow, and they're talking about snow again. I hope it doesn't come. I mean, you know what? This country, this winter has been horrible. But I have to say, it's been in the 80s here in Arizona all week. And as we say, it's a dry heat. So to me, the weather's perfect. I wish we had this all year instead of the 115. So as I say every week, throw something at me when I start complaining. But I wanted to tell you about this activity I did. My children are grown, but I love herbs when I cook. I love to cook, love to bake. And I planted an herb garden this week. And I'm going to post some pictures, but I'm really excited about it because gardening is something great to do with your little ones. It doesn't matter. Even a 2-year-old, you can give them the small child-sized watering can. Show them how to pat the dirt in. And, you know, kids love to play with dirt. Anything that they can touch, they're so tactile. So, you know, let them plant a flower. Even one herb. Basil's a great herb to let your children plant because it seems to be pretty hardy and it smells good, so you can talk about the sense of smell. You can look at the green leaves. You can let them taste it. And then you can go inside and make an English muffin pizza and put some basil on top. So it's wonderful not only learning about how the things grow, but, you know, it's fun to watch the progress. And if you take pictures, you know, when you plant it, when you water it, and you put it in a little book for your children. And it doesn't have to be fancy. You can just put Scotch tape on the back of the pictures. Or, you know, with the internet, you can make pictures so easy, put them in a little book. Children love to look back at what they do. And what a great thing to see how the plant was planted. Anyway, I was excited about my activity, but you'll have even more fun if you do that with your children. And I have lots of other activities like that coming in my book, Help My Toddler Came Without Instructions. There's a whole chapter on activities to do with your children when they're bored, the little ones. Also, you know, I talk about tips for my books every week, and I wanted to share one more tip because many of the schools are going to be on spring break next week, or maybe you're already on spring break, and if you're going to go on a road trip or do something, you know, that involves the car, even the airplane or a train, bus, don't forget about that I Spy game. It's so much fun. You say, I spy something green, and let them look out the window and find something green. Or I spy something with 2 legs or 4 legs, and maybe they'll find a dog. And what I always used to do was take lots of prizes, and everybody got a prize because you don't want them fighting in the back seat. So those are a couple activities you can do with the kids. Also, a couple other things before I talk with Sandra. There was a really sad article in the paper about testing newborns. And I talk about this. It was in our Arizona paper. It requires newborn screening for 29 diseases and conditions, far fewer than many other states. And we have these two new proposals in the works to change that because there's this terrible disease called Crab disease, Krabbe, and it is a often fatal degenerative nervous system disorder. And, you know, what happens, baby may be fine until they're 7 months old and they stop eating and their body becomes rigid. And unfortunately, there's no known cure. It's very rare, 1 in 100,000. But again, that was 1 in 100,000 in 2011. And while it is very rare, if you're expecting a baby or anybody, that you know in your family, make sure before they deliver the baby, they check and see that the babies are screened for all these diseases because there are many things that they can cure. And there are many things that if you catch it very, very early, you will have a healthy baby with a really long life. So check with your OBGYN or check with a pediatrician and see what they do for testing. And on a lighter note, this was pretty interesting. Why we love a baby's smell. You know, when you hand a baby to a mom, not dad so much, they always say, I could just eat up that newborn. And scientists monitored the brains of some women as they sniffed the newborn's undershirts. Half had recently given birth and half never had. As the women smelled the newborn scent, all their brains showed activity in the pleasure center, the area that lights up after you eat chocolate. Yeah, that must be, my whole head must be lit up when I eat chocolate or play the slot machines and win. But the new mom's brains lit up more than those of the childless women. It says this mental hardwiring may strengthen the mother-child bond by rewarding moms for the caregiving. So I thought that's pretty interesting. Also, there was this is news from the world of medicine. If you're not a parent, whatever you decide, it's fine, whatever works for you. It says you can get your brain to light up another way. It says, is your glass making you drunk? Now, I know, let's talk a little bit about, I know it's baby and toddler instructions, but this just made me laugh. It said the type of wine glass you sip from and how you pour the vino may affect how much you imbibe. Think about this next time you have a glass of wine. When researchers observed drinkers at happy hour, they found people poured about 12% more if they used a wide-mouthed glass rather than a narrower one, and they held the glass instead of setting it down. That's pretty interesting. So if I go to happy hour again, I'm going to look at the glass, and I'm going to see who puts the glass down and who holds it, and probably all our brains will be lit up, and we'll all be happy. If not, eat some chocolate if you don't drink wine. So on that note, that lovely note, if you have a question, a comment, or want to say good morning during the show, you can call us at 877-864-4869, or you can go to the chat line on toginet.com. So I want to tell you a little bit about my wonderful guest, Sandra Beck. She is the president of Motherhood Incorporated, an author, a coach, a speaker, a radio host, an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and my friend. Sandra Beck is successful as she is busy. The single mother of 2 young boys has created a virtual empire of successful companies entirely staffed, managed, and implemented using a host of virtual assistants and online resources. She's the author of a wildly successful blog, motherhoodvoice.com, author of Motherhood Incorporated, The Smart Woman's Guide to Working from Home with Just a Computer and an Internet Connection, Bouncing with Style. I love Bouncing with Style because I'm an expert on there. Blogophoria, How to Reach Millions of People Without Spending a Dime. Sandra is a powerful voice in social media arena as a popular internet brand strategist. She is the host of 2 radio shows, Military Mom Talk Radio, Motherhood Talk Radio, and has produced over 145 episodes and been a guest on 37 other radio shows on other networks. She's an active contributor and participant in many charities, as you will see on Facebook. If you're Sandra's friend, she is always doing something wonderful for somebody else. She strives to make the world a better place for today's and our future children. Near to her heart are Toys for Tots, World of Children, and Children United Nations. Sandra was born outside of Buffalo, New York, went to Northwestern, and got a bachelor's degree in journalism and a master's in advertising. And whoo, I'm out of breath, Sandra.
Oh, I can't live up to that.
No,
I can't live up to that.
Yes, but you do. You do so many great things. You know, I wanted to say we're going to talk about single parents today, but I didn't realize Single Parents Day is next Friday, March 21st.
Wow, I didn't even know we had a day.
You have a day, see?
That's something.
So get that wide mouth wine glass and a piece of chocolate next Friday and celebrate single parenthood.
Wow, I can't believe we have our own holiday. I never knew that.
No, it said, let's see, Mary Ann Britton, the International Vice President for Parents Without Partners. It's a day for honoring the single parent who is basically doing double duty and let's give them some respect. Okay, Mary Ann.
Yay, I love that.
So you have your own day next Friday. I'll call you and see if you're celebrating. We can celebrate on the phone.
We can celebrate on Skype. We'll have our chocolate together and our wine.
That's right, or maybe a little green. You know, I know we're going to talk about being a single parent, but I want to talk about this just for a second before we break for commercial. We were talking before we went on the show about you drinking delicious greens. And, you know, I'm going to segue into this because, as you know, moms don't take care of themselves, single, not single. You know, they don't take time to eat. Talk about naps. They don't, you know, we don't even know what that is, when we're having babies, you know, older kids and we work and everything else. I want you to talk just for a few seconds about your green drink. We have 1 minute. And and I think it's great because my son does greens.
You know, I did it because you're exactly right. I don't take care of myself. And when you're the sole provider and the sole finance and sole parent, everything, you have to take care of yourself. And so I am juicing like celery and kale and beets and green apples and, you know, all these things from this Joe Cross documentary that's free on the web. It's on Netflix. And he just talks about giving your system a break from all the punishment we give them by drinking these green vegetable juices. They're cheap. You know, I have an old juicer. It works. And every day for 4 days now, I've been drinking them 3 or 4 times a day and I feel great.
Yum. What's the documentary called? It's funny.
Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. Okay. And that's exactly how I felt one day when I turned it on Netflix.
Well, on that note, we are going to go break for commercial.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Are you looking for something more in your life or business? More success, more stability, more happiness? It's all out there waiting for you, but it doesn't just happen. You've got to go get it. Make it happen with Michelle McCullough, where motivation and strategy intersect. Michelle is a serial entrepreneur, acclaimed speaker, and the Woohoo Radio Network's resident business and success strategist. Michelle has the smarts, strategies, and experience to help you improve your life and take your business to the next level. You've got big dreams. You've got big vision. Now it's time for you to make it happen.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. The hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back. I'm here with my great guest, Sandra Beck from Military Mom Talk Radio, Motherhood Incorporated. You know what? I can't go on and on because we'll take up the whole time if I keep telling all these wonderful things you do, Sandra. So let's talk about being a single mom, a single parent. How old were your kids when you were a single mom?
Well, you know, Blythe, it's an interesting question that you ask, and it sounds, you know, like very simple. Well, when I divorced, my kids were like 3 and 5 years old. But when I became a single mom, and that's, you know, when my husband left, he walked out on my birthday one day during the birthday party, took his stuff and left. And I became a single mom even though I wasn't divorced yet. And I invite the listeners today to think about the concept of a single mom, because the only difference between being a single mom and being married and a single mom and being divorced was a piece of paper. And I know that there's lots of mothers out there that are, especially the ones raising small children, that's where you feel it the most, I think, that are single moms, even though they're married or they have a partner, because the concept of single mom is that you have to do it all. And I have a lot of friends who have husbands who have just completely divorced themselves from the child raising process, from a lot of these things. So that concept of single mom for me, when you asked me that question, I became a single mom the day my youngest son was born, and when my ex-husband didn't come to the hospital to see me and the new baby and went to lunch with his girlfriend, that's when I classify it. But I didn't get divorced till a couple years later. So it's a really interesting it's an interesting question. When did you become a single mom?
That's, you know what, it gives me the chills when you talk about the hospital, because that's, you're alone and yeah. Anyway, but you're right, because I know, I am sure, I'm not going to speak for every mom, but I am sure many moms out there that are in a marriage and you're in a happy relationship feel like a single mom sometimes, because let's face it, we tend to do more.
Yeah, because you know what happened, Blythe? It was an interesting thing. When I got divorced, and even before that, when I became a single mom, like I put that in quotes, I was able then to turn around to girlfriends and to friends and family and really get the support and love and nurturing that I needed, that I wasn't getting from my partner. And the loneliest time in my life was being married, with a newborn, and, I had one on the way, and not being able to get my needs met. At that time, my husband was running around with the girlfriend and, not home and not working and not paying the bills. So everything fell on my shoulders, Blythe. And I felt, because I was married, I couldn't reach out to other people because I didn't want to betray the bonds of my marriage by talking about my marriage problems. I didn't want to burden my friends and family. I certainly wasn't going to, enjoy the company of other men, even just to have a conversation. And so that was really lonely for me. And I know there's a lot of women out there in that position. And when my ex-husband did finally leave, and then we ultimately divorced, it was such a relief, Blythe, because then I could reach out to my girlfriends and cry. I could reach out to my family and say, this is just we have a mess in Maple Leaf Garden over here, and I need your help cleaning this up. I can't do it. When you're married and you have that illusion of a relationship or illusion of a husband, that's a really, really tough place to be. And I know there are women out there today listening that have found themselves in that position.
So looking back, do you think you're breaking the bonds of your marriage to go to maybe a best friend? You don't have to announce it to everybody in a group like Sex in the City and they all talk about everything. What do you think looking back?
Well, I was always afraid, and I'm not a good person in interpersonal relationships. I live in fear of hurting somebody. I really, really don't like to hurt somebody's feelings. So, I was very protective, I realize now, of everybody but myself. Worried about protecting the kids, worried about protecting my husband, worried about protecting his reputation. Meanwhile, I was drowning at home.
Yeah, you know what? And he wasn't protecting you.
No, and I will say for women out there that are considering divorce, my best advice to you is to explore every avenue possible to save your marriage. Go to counseling, go to couple sessions, talk it out, hash it out, do everything you can, because when you go to file, it's a really frightening process. At least it was for me, but I was at peace. And for about a year and a half, I had just had a baby when I thought about filing for divorce. Nobody thinks about holding their newborn going, you and me, kid, it's going to be us in a couple months, so watch out. And that's exactly what I did. I was holding this little 6-pound ball going, I am so sorry, but, it's going to be a rough road from here out. And, I had my toddler at home, and I used to pray over him with the same thing because I knew it was inevitable, even though it took me a year to pull the trigger on that. And I did. I asked everybody at that point for their advice. When do you, how do you, what do you? And that's part of the process, is part of the natural process, I think. And when you're ready to make the decision, it's really weird, Blythe. It gets eerily quiet. Like I woke up that day, I didn't feel the need to call anybody, and I would talk to my mom every day about what I was going to do, hash it out, hash it out, hash it out. And there was peace. There was silence. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I had done everything possible to save my marriage. I had done everything possible I knew how to do. There was no stone left unturned. I had gotten enough advice. And at that point, I was ready to go to the law office and file. And it sounds dramatic, but I'm not somebody who makes decisions lightly.
No, it doesn't. You know what? It doesn't sound dramatic because we don't know what to do. There's no right or wrong. And yes, it's okay to try everything. And I agree with you. You should try every single thing. You want to try if that's going to work for you, because you don't want to look back and say, we should have gone to counseling, or we should have tried another 6 months, or we shoulda, coulda, woulda. You know what? You can't look back. And to hear you say it was peaceful, I mean, that's the ultimate, because you can do it at that particular minute.
Right, and you have to be strong enough. The first time I went to an attorney the year prior, my son was 3 months old and my other son was 2 years old, and I drove him into my ex-husband was supposed to pick up the kids, and of course that didn't happen, so I took him to the law office with me, and it was this beautiful law office, and there were Cheerios everywhere, and it was just, and I was terrified, and she came out and called my name, and I looked around the room, and I was the only one there, and I was like, oh my God, is that me? Is that me? And I went and sat down in front of the attorney, and he fired like 4 questions at me, and I fell apart and I went home. And for somebody who has a high-powered degree and owns their own company, to be absolute.
Well, I think I lost Sandra for a minute. So.
And I didn't have an answer.
There you are. Sandra, I lost you for a minute. I don't know what happened. So did you go back once or twice?
I went back the second time a year later to a different attorney. I was too embarrassed to go back to the first one. Because he asked me, why did you marry this guy in the first place, when I told him what was happening? And I couldn't answer him. And I was a 40-year-old woman with, 2 advanced degrees, a company owner, and I felt, the size of an ant.
That's not a good question either. You know what? I don't like that question.
No, but you're going to get a lot of questions when you're divorced.
Oh, yeah. Awkward. But when you get married because you supposedly love the person, you love each other. Yeah. Well, mostly. I don't know. Everybody does it for different reasons. Hopefully most of it's for love. So once you did it, and yes, you're really a single mom now, and maybe your ex-husband's not going to show up to pick up the kids. Were you scared? Did you have time to be afraid, or did you, I know you well enough because you're so organized, that did you immediately organize your life and say, I'm going to do this and this and this and this? Or was there a time when you cried every day or fell apart? Or?
Oh, I cried every day for 43 straight days. And I promised myself, and I wrote this in my day planning, talk about organized grieving. I vowed if I got to 60 days, I'd go and get antidepressants. And I'll never forget that. I got to the 43rd day and I was like, oh, I didn't cry today. And, that organization you see to the public was really just my coping mechanism for feeling extremely out of control. But I will be totally honest and tell you, from like 2 to 5 in the morning every night, in the middle of the night when the kids were asleep, I'd get up for that 2 o'clock feeding right around there. And then I'd put my son down and I would cry and I'd walk around the house and I'd have such terrible, terrible anxiety. I couldn't breathe. My chest hurt. And at one point when I was walking down the stairs, I fell down the stairs and broke my arm. And that was all because of, and I had the baby in my arms. That's how I broke it. I had my son in one arm. I was walking down the stairs and I slipped on my, those big fuzzy socks that are so nice. I slipped and I fell into the wall and I braced myself so I wouldn't smash the baby. I braced myself with my left hand and I broke my arm. And that was a big wake-up call for me, going, wow, your anxiety is out of control. You are. And at that point, I did go and get some anti-anxiety meds that I could take as needed. I wasn't on a prescription drug. I didn't need that, but some people do. Because, if you're really invested in your marriage and family is the most important thing to you, which it was for me. I grew up in a wonderful family and my parents stayed married and my dad held my mom, till she took her last breath. when you want that and your goal is that for you and your children, and then you're facing divorce, or you're like me, the first one in the family to get divorced, it's a lot of ego, it's a lot of heart, it's a lot of grieving. And what people don't understand is not everybody grieves the same, and not everybody gets over it at the same pace. And there's some people who are married for 20 years and just hate their marriage. There's some that aren't.
And then that big F word comes into your head, failure.
Oh, big time. It's probably the biggest failure I've had in my life, Blythe, my marriage.
But it's not a failure, because as we get older, and for those listeners that are young, and I hope you're all happy, whether you're married or not married, you know what, we're not failures. Life just happens, and what we find, at least for me, and I know probably for you too, Sandra, it's so important to take care of ourselves. And we can worry about everybody else in the world. And, I used to call myself director of the universe, and I wasn't part of that universe. Everybody else in the world was when I was younger. and you know what? And as I've gotten older, at least 10 years ago, I realized, wait a minute, what about me? When your kids get older, my kids are grown up. You still have younger kids, but it's so great that you're taking care of yourself now. And I always say, from day one, I'll tell new moms with the newborns, don't give up your girlfriend time, and don't give up your date night time. And don't, every time you feed the baby, take a glass of water so you don't get dehydrated and you have energy to go take care of your little baby or your toddler, because it's just so tough. It gets away from us. And what you said was so interesting, because I know my generation, not that I'm ancient, you went to school, if you could go to college, you did. You got married, you had kids, you stayed married forever, and you lived, you retired and whatever, and you didn't get divorced. And it was in my generation too, but that's not the way it works. I mean, who knows? We're not in charge of life. We just have to take each day and get up and look at what we have in front of us. And on the crappy days, which we all have crappy days, we have to say it's a crappy day today, and you'll have a do-over tomorrow or in a couple of hours or whatever. But it's not a crappy day today. Sandra, I'm so glad you're on the show, and this is so much fun. When we come back, we're going to have a commercial in just a bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the challenges of being a single mom, a single dad. There's lots of single dads out there too. Let's not forget them, because they work really hard too. And the dynamics are a little different because they're not used to doing the same things, but they're used to doing daddy things, which are different. I'm sitting here picturing a father throwing his baby up in the air and catching it, because daddies are different than mommies. And, whether you're a single mom or dad, nothing better than having our children and taking good care of them like Sandra does and like I do. So we will be right back.
We'll be right back with more help. For help, my baby came without instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Baby love, my baby love, I need you, oh, I need you.
Do holidays and celebrations get you down and leave you feeling frazzled? Then join Sandy Fowler and her guests on Heart-Filled Holidays every Monday at noon, 11 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Sandy will help you discover the secrets to having the celebrations you've always dreamed of while adding fun and meaning to your life. From Valentine's Day to Christmas to special family events, Sandy Fowler will show you how to put the fun and meaning back into those special days by taking a look at what we can do to turn the upcoming holidays into cherished memories and show us how to allow it to intertwine with everyday life. For more on the show, Sandy, and to receive Sandy's Holiday Happiness booklet, go to heartfilledholidays.com. Then get set to discover the secrets to creating happy holidays and happy everydays by joining Sandy Fowler and her guests on Heart-Filled Holidays every Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time on TogiNet.com.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. I am here with my wonderful guest, Sandra Beck, the president of Motherhood Incorporated, the host of 2 great radio shows, and she does so much. Can't even keep up with Sandra. If you have any questions, comments, want to just say good morning. You know I love callers. Call 877-864-4869. And on that note, Sandra, when you got divorced and you really were a single mother, your children were little. Was there a difference in the way the kids acted? Because, I mean, was Daddy there before you got divorced? Did he play an active part? Or was it all you? Okay, so there wasn't a change.
It was all me. And the biggest challenge that we had as a family is, my ex-husband moved in with his girlfriend right away. So the kids had no adjustment period. All of a sudden it was like Dad was gone and Dad's now with the girlfriend, and the girlfriend had 2 teenage kids, and we have very, very different parenting ideologies. We have very, very different households. So my kids really struggled between the 2 systems in the household, and they hated the girlfriend. They still hate her today. Because they didn't even have a chance to like her, because she was immediately thrust herself in this role of stepmother, and I'm your stepmother, and this is the way we do this, and your mother does this wrong. And there were all sorts of stuff like this going on that just honestly made my kids mad. So if you're somebody who's getting involved with a single dad, take it slow with their kids. My kids were slammed into an instant new family, and they had these family meetings, and they're taking family vacations. And, my poor little 5-year-old at the time, he was 5 and 6, and his head was spinning. He didn't know what was up. It was too much for him. And as much as a as a blended set of parents, you might want to blend that family quickly. Little kids need time to adjust. I know they're very resilient, they're very flexible, but you know what? My kids do not like this woman today a lot because they didn't integrate right. You know what I mean? It's like they didn't slowly merge the households. They just threw all these kids in a pot, and the kids don't like each other. And I think they're not bad people, all these children, and mine included, but they never had a chance to form their own bonds, to form their own relationship before it was forced upon them. And I can't emphasize enough for everybody out there, if you're going to blend your families, blend them slowly. Give the kids time to make their own relationships and their own friendships, because when you force children to become brothers, when you force them to accept this new stepmother or a stepfather, because it works both ways, her kids are not fond of my ex-husband either, you've got a really big mess on your hands. You've got to take it slow.
So 5 and 6 now is like 9 and 10. 5 and 6 used to be a baby. But so when your boys would come home, especially the older one, did he act out? I mean, were there things, it's because it has to be age appropriate, and you can only explain so many things that they'll understand, although kids are so smart.
Well, he was angry, and we would go for runs, we would go for hikes. We have a bag that he punches. I hold this the karate bag that he practices, and he'd punch it out because he wasn't old enough to articulate it. But when I really saw my kids suffering, and my little one at 3 years old was pulling his eyebrows out. He was so nervous. He kept pulling on his eyebrows. We went to a family counselor because there's so much when you're a single mom, and especially if it's a blended family right away, or it's a very angry divorce, a lot of high feelings, especially the first couple years, your kids need independent support. And it was great because the therapist we had would bring out these toys, and she'd play a game with them. And I'd sit there fascinated going like, wow, you're playing a game with my kid. But then they would come home and they'd have all this relief, and they'd have a place to give their feelings. And the other thing she used, Blythe, which was so cool, was this chart, and it had all these faces on it. And she was teaching my 3-year-old and my 5-year-old, and she still, does this today. You can look on this chart and say, how do you feel? Because kids can recognize facial expressions, but they can't articulate it. When they would point to the frustrated face, she would talk about, well, frustration feels like this. Is that what you're feeling? And she started giving them these language tools very early on, where they could express what was happening to them, because that's the hardest thing when they're little kids like that. You hand them off to your ex-husband, they're over there with the girlfriend and the kids come back whacked out, they're upset, they're crying, they're punching, they're pulling their eyebrow out, and you can't communicate with them. You can't ask them what's wrong like you would a girlfriend. So getting them early on to a great family therapist, a child specialist that can help them point at pictures and start articulating, because what happens, Blythe, is that when a kid goes through a traumatic situation in a divorce household mishap like this, they can carry that for their whole life. And it could be some really small thing, but because they're a child, it's monumental. And if you can get them to talk about it, if you can get them to draw about it or write about it or color about it, they can start releasing these memories and they don't get anchored in their psyche, so they carry all this anger forward. It's really important.
It's a whole process, and I'm so happy you talked about going to a family counselor, because you know what, sometimes as much as we love our children more than anything, sometimes it's easier for another person to be able to talk to them about it than mom or dad. So let's go to the other end of it. What about when you have to well, maybe I shouldn't say it's the other parent's turn to take the children for the weekend or for the week or whatever you have organized, and you know that they don't want to go and they're going, we're not going.
Oh,
or
yeah.
They're crying or whatever they're doing, and you're in your heart, you're cringing, saying, I don't really want to send them there. How do you handle that?
Well, when they're little, you teach them, it's the thing about divorce, Blythe, is it's got wonderful teaching moments. If you look at it like that, you won't, pull your own hair out. So yeah, when they don't want to go to their dads most of the time. So when they were little, I say, you know what, daddy loves you. He wants to see you. He wants to spend time with you. And they're like, no, mommy, no. And then you say things like, mommy will be right here. Mommy will be waiting for you when you get home. You're going to go there and have fun with daddy. You ease the transition and then you cut it off. And, because little kids don't have, kind of the staying power that we do when you can distract them. So I would also give them little prizes to take to daddy's house, so they would know they would get a little treat to go over there. And one time when I was particularly mad at them, I gave them both a whistle. So I sent them over to Dad's house with 2 whistles, and that just made me feel so much better, because I was so mad at my ex-husband and his girlfriend. So I thought, I could give them whistles, and I never really did anything bad, but I would have some fun with those things. But easing the transition, making it quick, and then when they get older, like my son now, who's almost 11, and he's like, Mom, I don't want to go, and I tell him, you know what, honey, you have to go, and I have to bring you over there, and if I don't, Mommy can get arrested and Mommy can go to jail, and I can't help you from there. So I'm really sorry. This is something you have to do in life. We don't always have choices. And, it's really hard to teach, kids when they're 5 and 7 or up, that life we don't always have choices. But the fact of the matter is we don't. And kids of divorce learn a lot of hard lessons early on in life, but understand that we all have to learn those lessons at some point in our life. And yeah, it sucks that the kids have to learn them young, but you know what? They've got them under their belt, and as a result, they're going to be better off as adults.
And you have to be honest. I mean, honesty is the best policy. If your child's old enough to understand what you said about going to jail, or, you sign an agreement and you have to do it. You don't want to go back to court. How do you, as a mom, I mean, I'm thinking about this. I got divorced when my children were grown up. And so we didn't have the back and forth. But I can know, as me, I would want to be like calling there every day and seeing what they're doing and what the father's doing and, whatever it is. I would want to know. What did you do? Did you have to distract yourself? Did you want to call?
Oh, I did. And I missed my kids terribly. And, one of 2 things happened. My ex-husband and his girlfriend would not let me speak to the kids. And we went to court, to try to get, I bought my kids a cell phone. We went through all this stuff. And finally, I just said, you know what? This is driving me insane, and it's not helping the kids, because the kids were crying for me. And I was like, and again, going to these, therapists, going to this specific therapist, she's counseled families for 25 years. She's she's seen it all. So instead of me trying to figure out everything, I go to her every week and I hand her, these are the problems I'm having. What solutions do you have? And she has solutions from all these families in her 25 years of experience counseling divorced families. And what I had to do was really start blocking things out. I can't change what I can't change. The law will not, give me what I want. So I don't have any choice. So what ended up happening is, my kids and I made an agreement where I would tell them the night before they're going to their dad's for 4 days, or if they're going on vacation for a week, know that I love you, know that I'm thinking of you. And I used to take a Sharpie when they were little, and I would draw a little pink Sharpie heart on their hip, where they're like under their underpants.
Uh-huh.
And that would stick, for like 4 or 5 days, and they would know mommy is always with them. I also sewed a little heart on each of their little loveys that they take back and forth, their little stuffed animals, and that was the sparkle heart. And they could focus on the sparkle heart, they could hold the sparkle heart, and that was the connection to mommy. And they could just, put their wishes into the sparkle heart. And that worked until they were about 5 or 6 years old. And then finally my son's like, Mom, the sparkle heart isn't getting good reception. It didn't answer back.
That's pretty funny. Your boys are so smart. I'd like to add to that, because when I talk to moms who are having an issue with their children in preschool with separation anxiety, I will tell them to give their child a kiss in each hand in their palm to hold, and this is for mommy. So that sometimes helps too. I love the sparkle heart. But it's just so nice because, sometimes the kids will be in preschool and they'll be screaming and holding on to mom's leg and they don't want to leave, whether you're a single parent, whether you're married.
Sure.
And just to have something from mom is so comforting to your child. I mean, look how many times I know sometimes when babies won't sleep, I've told moms to put something of theirs in the crib, cut a square from one of their T-shirts that smells like them, not something big.
Yeah.
Or anything, because it's comforting. As babies, we all want our mothers. I don't care how old we are.
Right.
But when you're having these issues, what a great thing. I think everybody should go get a sparkle heart or a square or whatever it is, because I can only imagine you don't know what to do. I would be pulling my hair out if my kids are saying, I don't want to go. I want to go, okay, but, obviously you can't.
No, you can't. And you don't help them by saying, but you acknowledge that you're, I'm so sorry. I don't want you to go either, but this is what we have to do. And it's just very matter of fact. And it's really, it's really hard on your heart. And the way you get through it when your kids are gone, when people ask me, how did you write a book? How did you do these shows? How do you do all this stuff? It's because I keep myself busy when my kids are gone, because if not, it will your own thoughts can drive you insane.
You know what? That's so true. I mean, we all have to keep busy. And you do so many things, and you do so many great things for families and parents and Toys for Tots and everything else. And I like to keep busy too. I'm not a sitter, but I can, what about, we're going to have a commercial in a few minutes. In 30 seconds. So I don't want to talk about this, but what I was going to say, when we come back, I'm talking to Sandra Beck. We're talking about single parenthood, and I want to talk about girlfriend time when you're a single parent, because you have so many things to do and you don't want to let that fall by the wayside. So when we come back, we will continue to talk to Sandra Beck. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these. In the annals of recorded history, there has never been anything that can compare to home movies. But now, in this modern era, where do you turn for the best information? Right here. It's the Home Movie Legacy Project, hosted by Rhonda Vigent. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central here on the Rockstar Radio Network. Learn how to organize, digitize, share on social media, use as genealogy research, repurpose, or even monetize found footage.
Discover ways to find films about your own family that you didn't even know existed. Or create a documentary that can use the power of home movies to deliver a message that can impact the lives of many. For more on Rhonda and the show, go to our website, homemovielegacy.com. Then be here as the journey continues with the Home Movie Legacy Project with Rhonda Vigent. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central here on the Rockstar Radio Network. Get ready to live La Bella Vita with Dawn Catherine on TogiNet.com. Live La Bella Vita. If you're wanting to know all the beauty tricks of the trade and the latest fashion trends before everyone else, this is your show. If you admire celebrities' beauty and their fashion sense, this is your show. Do you love wine and want to know more about the process it takes to make wine from the vine to the bottle? This is your show. Live La Bella Vita. For more on the show and your host, check out our website, labellavitacosmetico.com. This is the kind of show you can sink your teeth into. If you enjoy traveling and food and family, all with an Italian flair, then you can live La Bella Vita with your host, Dawn Catherine. Wednesday nights at midnight, 11 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back. I can't believe we're up to the last segment. This goes so fast, Sandra, every week. I love doing my show, and I just realized this is my 192nd show. Yay!
Woo! Congratulations.
I'm so excited. I love doing my show. Anyway, before we went to break, we were going to talk about girlfriend time. How do you, when you're tired and you feel like you have to clean the house and the kids aren't there and, you know, and it's an effort to get out of the house, how do you keep the girlfriend time? Or, you know, if you're
I have them come over. I do. I say, you know what, girls, I'm sorry. Because, you know, as a single mom, I don't have the money to go out. And they're always trying to pay for me. And I want to thank, you know, my girlfriends, you know, and I'll thank them publicly, you know, Christy, Tracy, Carrie, you know, Jackie, Vicky, you know, and Blythe, you know, I'm going to put that out there because they will pay for things for my kids that I can't afford. And I've had to learn to be gracious and accept them. And I want to thank them publicly because they will come over with a box of tissues. They will come over and just sit and hold my hand. And, you know, when you have a group of what I call my core girls like that you can count on, and I try to be really respectful. That's another good thing that a therapist helps you with. You can dump all your problems in the therapy session and you don't bore your girlfriends or, like, you know, 3 years later, you're still whinging about the same thing. But girlfriends are vitally, vitally important.
That's a great idea to have them come over. And it's, you know what, you don't have to go out and pay for things. I mean, everything's so expensive, and then you feel bad, and you shouldn't have paid for it. So anyway.
Learning to accept help, like that was hard for me because I'm a real big giver. I like to give. It's more comforting for me to be in that position. But you know what would happen when the girls would come over? Like Carrie will always go in the kitchen, and she'll start to clean a little bit. And, you know, Christy is the big laundry folder, and she'll grab some laundry and fold it, and they will help me with my house. You know, because I can't keep up. You know, you cannot as a single mother do what people who have two parents, two people doing it. It's just not possible. And you'll kill yourself trying. And I almost did. And having my girlfriends come over and, you know, and I might make some dinner and then they will help me a little bit around the house. They love it. They love cleaning my house and not their own. And in return, I will tell you, when I don't have my children, I'm the one they go to pick up the kids from school when they're sick, their kids. I will come over and help them with their laundry. I'll come over and help them. And when we all work together, it makes, you know, the day-to-day chores really a lot of fun when we can sit and fold 8 loads of laundry together and talk the whole time. It goes by like nothing.
You know, I'm so happy you talked about that because I am a giver too, and I'm a terrible receiver. And I have had to learn to receive. People love to give as much as we love to give. So do other people. So when you accept something from somebody else, especially your girlfriends, there's nothing like it. And I'm not talking about presents that you buy. I'm talking about presents, you know, presence, those presents.
Yeah, time.
So, you know, and if you're a new mom, and I tell my new moms this all the time, if somebody says, can I go get you something at the grocery store, pick up the laundry, say, yes, thank you. It's okay. We don't have to be super moms.
Well,
You
and
know
you've
what?
just given your friend the gift of letting them help you.
Exactly.
Because otherwise they feel rejected all the time. That's what my girlfriends told me in the beginning when they sat me down for that intervention of you need to let us help you. And they're like, every time you say no, we feel rejected and it hurts our feelings. And I never thought of it that way, going like I was like muscling through strong. I'm going to take care of this. And, my one friend Tracy's like, San, I can pick up your kids. I'm like, no, that's fine. Then she's like, will you let me help you? It hurts my feelings every time you say no because I want to do this for you. And I was like, oh.
They're great friends. Great advice. You know what? Let people help. And we all like to help each other.
Sure.
That's what I think. Anyway, so let's talk. We were talking during the break about your child coming home with a bottle of Mountain Dew. What do we do?
Yeah, 18 months old, and he had a baby bottle full of Mountain Dew that he was drinking because the girlfriend said he likes it. And that's the hardest thing when you hand your kid over to your ex-husband, the girlfriend he chooses is not often what you would choose, not even in the same decade. When you get a child raising your children or you got a bitter old woman raising your children, you just have to deal with it. But the one thing I want to tell the moms today, because I was terrified, like here's a perfect example. When my mom died, I'm Christian. So I taught my children, what happens in the Christian faith belief. And then I taught them what happens in the Jewish faith belief because that's the religion of my ex-husband. So I thought I covered it. Well, my kids came home all freaked out. They were 5 and 7, and they said, Grandma turned into dust and blew away like a leaf, like an old leaf. And I said, where did you hear that? And they're like, oh, the girlfriend sat us down and told us there is no God, and gave them this whole thing. And I just about blew a gasket, but I will tell you, I didn't react. I calmly said, well, that's her belief and that's fine. But in our family, we believe this and our friends believe this. And, this is why we choose this belief, and I was really calm about it. I was truthful to them. I was honest with them. I was upfront, and then years later, my mom's been dead almost 2 years now. My older son will say, like, God, she was an idiot. Why did she teach us that? That was so frightening. I was so scared when she told me Grandma dried up like a leaf and blew away. And if you stay strong with your kids, if you stay true and honest with them, and you are the one they trust. You're not the one with lots of men. You're not the ones, with the crazy household. You're not the one with the messed up everything. If you're solid and true and dependable, reliable, and upfront with your kids, even when you make a mistake, like I shouldn't have said that, that was wrong. I called the girl Chunkstein one time and it just slipped out, and her name is not Chunkstein and it stuck. And I said to my kids, I'm really sorry I said that. I shouldn't. That was unkind. And they're like, Mom made a mistake. But know that all these experiences that your kids have outside of the home, if you talk about them inside the home and you teach your children right from wrong from your perspective, 9 times out of 10, they adopt the belief system of the mother. And I don't know what goes on in every household, but I'm part of a lot of divorce groups and I watch the kids growing up, and the parents that adopt that, we're just going to talk about what goes on over there and help the kid make the right decision for him. My kids are living proof it's working.
That's great because it's so important. I mean, you can't pretend, and things are different. I see it all the time. I watch a couple of kids and it's a single dad, and I take the kids to school. They're older. They're older. They're 3.5 and 5.5. And they tell me, what they do at Grandma's house, and they tell me what they do at Dad's house. And I can see it's so much different. And Dad is great. He's a wonderful dad. And I'm sure Mom's a wonderful mom. And it's just so different, what happens in different households.
Right. And so, you roll with it. That's it. Just roll with it and know that everything is not the end of the world and everything is not a crisis. You can't go there. You cannot let yourself go there.
And you can't change it. You're not going to change what happens in somebody else's house.
No.
I mean, probably I can't even imagine if you say, well, I don't like when you do this and you do that. I'm sure the other person's going to just do that.
Oh, yeah.
Because, they don't want to hear how to raise the kids. It's tough, but you're such a good mom. You're such a good mom, and you've
I've had
given
lots of good help. I have to give credit to the therapist. I have to give credit to the radio shows. I've got to give credit to the friends that I have. But the thing that is the most important thing, Blythe, is I know what I don't know. And I don't know a whole lot about raising kids in a divorce. So asking for help, reading books, getting out there, going to support groups, going to classes. They offer classes for divorced parents on how to handle this stuff. You don't have to figure it all out alone.
any book you particularly loved?
Yes. My favorite book, the Bible. It's called Helping Your Kids Cope with Divorce, The Sandcastle's Way. And it's expensive. It's like a great big fat $18 book, but it talks about kids, at different developmental stages and how custody and visitation affects them, how, new families bringing in a boyfriend or a girlfriend, how to do all that stuff, and it talks about it from the kid's point of view. It's a big, thick, fat book. It's like 450 pages long. It's by Gary Newman. Somebody told me to get it when I got divorced. I bought it. It's the guy who does these court-mandated family programs nationwide. It's wonderful, and it answers so many of my questions, and it's dead-on accurate.
Well, what a great way to end the show. Where can my listeners find you?
They can find me at sandrabeck.com, just like my name.
And your radio shows? Everybody, you have to listen to Sandra's radio shows. She's a radio host too, and she's done so many. How many shows? 145? It's probably more than that now.
Oh, per show. Yeah, I have a couple hundred for Military Mom. I've got 100 or so under Motherhood Talk Radio, and another, 50 or 60 under Powered Up Talk Radio. It's hard to keep track anymore.
Well, I'm going to put all this on my website, babyinstructions.com, and thank you so much for being on the show today. This was just wonderful. Great information for single parents, and I can't wait to blog about it.
Yay!
So you have a great rest of your day. Thanks a lot. Say hi to your two little boys.
I will.
They're wonderful.
Thank you so much.
They're so cute. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, what a great show. Don't forget to honor all those single parents next Friday, March 21st, Single Parents Day. Put it on your calendar right now if you're on your smartphone or wherever you are, because if you're a single parent, my hat's off to you. If you're not a single parent, my hat's off to you too. It's great to be a parent, a lot of work, but so much fun. Also, next week, my guest will be Tracy Spackman from Quiet Night Sleep Coaching. Oh, God, makes me yawn just thinking about it. It's so rough when your little ones won't sleep through the night and they're old enough, or if you have a new baby and you don't know how to get them on a schedule, how many months. So she's going to share all her secrets so you can all get a good night's sleep. Don't forget to follow me, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn. Check out my website, babyinstructions.com, and my almost launched site, mybestparentingadvice.com. What else can I tell you? Oh, if you need me for a consult, you can call my office and schedule a in-home, if you're in Arizona, telephone or video consult, 480-510-1453, and from a single mom. So you're scared to date me because I have kids? You should be scared to date someone without. I can make a mean breakfast, tie your shoes, and clean the house, all while putting on makeup to look like a model. And I'm a single parent. What's your superpower? Love those two quotes. So thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and I am going to just wish as hard as I can that nobody gets snow in the east, because that forecast is something else. And don't forget, have fun each day. Do a little something with your children, even for 10 minutes. Talk to them, share with them, do a quick activity, let them help you make dinner. Nothing better. They all grow up so fast. Before you know it, you moms with babies, your kids are going to be going to kindergarten, and the older ones are going to be graduating high school. It goes really fast, so take that time to have fun with them each day. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.